Brydon Carse is the third English cricketer this summer to miss a test match while suspended pending an investigation into late-night drinking. Vish, we're here at Lords where Joe Root has just said that he's hacked off and disappointed in Carse's actions, and to be talking about yet another off-field incident involving an England player this summer. What's your read on the situation?
My read on the situation is probably no different to anyone else's, probably no different to yours, in that it's quite frustrating being here again. Not Lords, literally, but this particular situation. I was going to say it's probably the third apology we've had this summer as well. But I don't think Stokes strictly apologised, did he? So, yeah, it's a very strange set of circumstances for those just catching up. Brydon Carse, who was released from the squad for the first test because he wasn't playing, went and played for Durham in the county championship match at Derbyshire. They won that early, and then on Saturday evening, he went out with the Durham team, including now retired test captain Ben Stokes. The next morning, a video came through of Brydon Carse in handcuffs. Police confirmed yesterday that he was indeed arrested and then de-arrested. I've never heard de-arrested before, but he was de-arrested for being, well, he was originally handcuffed for being drunk and disorderly. He's been dropped from this squad. I don't think it's particularly outrageous to suggest it might be a long time coming before he's in another England squad. I think there is definitely that kind of frustration from above within the ECB offices that they have to clamp down on this. I know many pundits have been calling for stricter punishment. It might be coming, and Carse is the quote-unquote unfortunate one, having put himself in that situation.
Yeah, I guess there's a few things to say. Carse wasn't on England duty at the time, but is a centrally contracted player. He was obviously a member of the test squad, both for the first and second test. He's now been, as you said, stood down effectively from the second test squad. But as much as anything, this is a cumulative effect as well as the incident itself. This clearly wouldn't be a good look at any time, but particularly given that England had just won a test match and all the focus was very briefly, at least, on how well they bowled across those 3 days, and how clinical a performance they put in, the sort of sense of this being the first test of a new era and a slightly new start under Joe Root and interim head coach Marcus Jaskovic before Stephen Fleming came in. All of that work was pretty swiftly undone, really. And again, the focus is back on off-field stuff. I thought it was interesting listening to how Reed spoke about the opportunity, I suppose, for a cultural reset as much as anything with the England team. But the problem is that one of these resets has to start sticking. They've been talking about this stuff for a long time now.
Yeah.
And it's something that the only way to stop people talking about off-field incidents is for them to stop happening. And they've just been a consistent theme over the last 12 months. Really starting with, actually, and I wonder if this is sort of the broader point, is we sort of, almost every incident that has happened since has in some ways paled in comparison to England's one-day captain Harry Brook going out the night before a game, getting into a state where he was punched by a bouncer because of the fact that he was so drunk that he was unable to gain entry into a nightclub, or denied entry into a nightclub. And because of the fact that he was not at any point suspended or not banned for any cricket, as a result of that, and he kept his role as captain, it feels like everything since has been a difficult balancing act to strike between, throwing the book at players, but also recognising that they have to treat each incident on its own terms rather than as the latest in a snowballing effect. And I sort of feel like that everything goes back to patient zero in some regards, which was Harry Brook.
And then at the same time, I think it speaks to a level of arrogance among the players who've been involved in these situations to feel like what happened to Harry Brook wasn't something that should, taper or even, soften their behaviour. It feels like you drive yourself insane talking about a lot of these things. And, I think you did a very good job there. But fundamentally, there are millions, I'd wager billions of people who are able to go on nights out and not find themselves in situations where they're hit by a bouncer, where someone swings a punch at them, where they end up in handcuffs. It's just quite a normal thing to do. And I think you can extrapolate, actually, all the criticisms, for example, of the way England played their cricket under McCullum and Stokes. So much of that was put on the information they were supposedly getting from above, which resulted in a team of absolutes. They were terrible one minute, they were great the next. And you can almost take that into their off-field behaviour, where it's like, if they go out, there's always something emanating from it. And it's enough to drive you mad. It's, you know, one of Root's interesting bits in there, and I wonder, coming from Root, because he's so sincere and he's so beloved by everyone in English cricket, that it will mean a little bit more. But he made mention of the fact that he's only got 2 years before correcting himself, but he said initially 2 years left in that dressing room, and he wants to leave it in a better place. And ultimately, I think one of the offshoots of him getting the captaincy was for some of the players to look at themselves and think, you know what, if I can't do it for Joe Root or myself, then, geez, I've really got to, you know, really got to like, pull myself up on the bootstraps. I've really got to knuckle down and work hard. He's basically said it out loud in there, that he's only got so much time around. So he was almost saying via the media, lads, can we just not?
Yeah.
Can we just sort ourselves out? Can we just behave like adults?
Yeah, it was a message of, don't mess things up for me any more than you already have. He, I think, quite rightly described himself as very disappointed at the start. And here we are again talking about, rather than the Test match that starts in 2 days' time, talking about England's off-field behaviour and off-field conduct. Second Test does start in 2 days' time on Thursday.